So the new reboot of the Wasp got shit canned and not a single fucking person on planet Earth actually gives a shit or cares. A garbage run for a meh at best character who only sold the numbers she did because autistic comic book reviewers wanted to hear the thing a new asshole for clickbait videos. Now I practice what I preach, and I never even bothered to check out the books. Though I have more legitimate reasons for that other than laziness or hopping on a trend. Mainly being that Western comic books are for faggots anyway, and manga is infinitely better. I will admit that I am really fond of some Marvel characters when they're done right. My favorites being Punisher, Venom, Wolverine, and Deadpool. Very safe choices, but fuck it, they're good. But other than that, I really couldn't say I give a shit about the vast majority of Marvel. Sure, I like Spider-Man, as does pretty much everybody else on the planet at this point, and I watched a bunch of the MCU films. But Marvel as a whole, especially lately, has done absolutely nothing to make me give a fuck about this dead whale. Especially since the only thing worth reading is the new Venom run, which I haven't even kept up on lately, so it very easily could have gone to shit for all I know. It seems Marvel is more than willing to alienate its audience in order to gain an audience, and if that doesn't make any kind of sense and sounds like backward-ass logic, congratulations, you're the rest of the Marvel fanbase watching their corporate overlords commit seppuku in front of everybody. All for the sake of diversity, good boy points, and some blue-haired man-child tumblerina pussy. But if it isn't clear that Marvel is infested with nepotism and severe Asperger syndrome, ask yourself this. Why did Iceman, a character that they retconned into being a flamboyant gay guy that literally encased a bad guy in a giant ice penis, why did he get rebooted twice? Why did America Chavez get a solo run so fucking bad it made you want to yeet an illegal over the border? Why are these literal Tumblr bloggers and web artists suddenly given jobs at a professional comic book company while industry veterans are basically tossed out over politics? Well, of course you know the answer already. Top brass at Marvel is made up of liberal soy boy cucks that feel bad about all the edgy shit they printed in the 90s and the 2000s. So they think if they lay on their ground and let some woman stomp on their nuts with pointed heels, then they'll magically stop hating their own penis and they can feel good about themselves again. And you'll see any excuse under the sun pop out if you ever argue with any social justice comic book fan about this. Everything from the classic "you hate women," which I don't, but I have to admit these people are seriously making me consider it. You're a racist, which, 13% equals 56% apparently. Conservatives don't get blacklisted, but Chuck Dixon and Ethan Van Sciver say hi. And my favorite one, you're the oversensitive man babies. Which, all I want to say to that is, which one is the side that had a mental fucking breakdown because the Venom writer didn't want Eddie to fuck the symbiote? Also, who's the side that'll literally dox you and call your job because you said nigger on the internet once? And all sorts of other just mealy-mouthed bullshit. It's transparent that the people that argue for this diversity crap know literally nothing about comic books, and nor do they care. I'm open about my apathy towards the deep 4D chess level lore of comics, but once again, I'm the Ubermensch weeb, and you losers are the Untermensch cape-wearing dildos. But I'm never gonna weasel into Marvel and wreck shit simply because I don't like that many superhero comics. No. But these people that get into Marvel, the hacks like Ta-Nehisi Coates, that motherfucker, who jump in only to spread literal, actual propaganda, are there simply because they like the nerd tag, but they despise nerd culture. See, they were raised on a healthy diet of soy milk and the blood from their swollen lip when daddy used a pair of thick-rimmed glasses as knuckle dusters, but they don't want to actually be a nerd. Being a nerd is getting into a fight with your friend over which Dead Rising protagonist you like best. Being a nerd is calling somebody a faggot because they said Berserk 2016 was watchable. Being a nerd is doing nerdy shit. However, we have an entire generation of actual posers born and raised to tear apart any fad they get into. Ironically, these people are why hipsters exist, or at least the hipster culture. I say that because these idiots are literally corporate-worshipping hipsters, but I digress. The point is that we have yet another niche fad be co-opted and destroyed by the mainstream, something taken away from people that actually give a shit about it, and replaced by executives in a fucking boardroom. Same shit happened to punk rock, same shit happened to movies, same shit happened to video games. anytime something even slightly new or unique or edgy becomes popular, you have insecure little bitches arrive from out of the woodwork to stamp their own name on it and water it down. And they try to use every tactic to mask what they're doing, mainly by disavowing what came before as somehow problematic and sanitizing what's being put out now. You always see this shit when you hear about some fucking gay lesbian movie come out and it's directed by some gay lesbian chick or something like that, and they say, oh, it's so great, it's so awesome, it's so this and that, and it's better than any movie that ever came before, as though there haven't been masterpieces before it. They act as though the past is not only wrong, but that it should never have existed. And it's just fucking stupid. And all it does is make what comes out now completely unrecognizable to what it started out as. These morons come out and they wear the bright hair dye and say Yas Queen unironically. These motherfuckers are the biggest symptom of a co-opted hobby. They come in pretending to like something because they find it quirky or cute. Then they start picking fights with people, playing the victim, and demanding the whole culture change to suit them instead. It's so formulaic and familiar that I bet all of you watching this probably have 5 or so different hobbies or fan bases or cliques or whatever that you're a part of that went through this exact same process. And I know what you're thinking now. What the fuck does this have to do with the Wasp getting canceled? Well, here's what got me started on this whole rant to begin with. Marvel is super fucking sexist and racist. And not in any fun way, like forcing Black Panther to sit in the back of the bus or allowing the Punisher to say the N-word. No, I mean a genuine, disgusting level of bigotry. The worst type of bigotry, in my opinion, in all honesty. The bigotry of low expectations. To those that don't know what this means, it essentially says that a form of racism, / prejudice, / sexism, / whatever ism you want to put, can arise from simply assuming that a minority needs help. That white people have to give them a platform or a voice because they're just too weak to power through society. That is, if you're born a certain skin tone or part of a certain culture or whatever, that you're destined to be inferior. SJWs somehow actually make it in their mind that this is okay to think by disguising it as privilege. You know, they always talk about white privilege or straight privilege or whatever the fuck kind of dumbass crap they want to throw out. And they'll say the dumbest shit. Like a rich black guy is still somehow less privileged than a homeless white guy. We all know it's not true, and it's actually incredibly fucked up to think like this. And really, the people who do think like this know it too. It's why you see such psychotic pushes to drive out any and all white male creators from an art form or from anything they have complete control over. It's a projection issue. They hate themselves for holding what they assume are bigoted thoughts, so they punish everybody else around them for it. And this applies to Marvel perfectly. There are plenty of really talented writers, artists, what have you, who work in Marvel that are just absolutely batshit crazy about this diversity stuff. A certain mentally retarded lunatic by the name of Bark Sade is the best example of this. A really talented dude, his run on Daredevil notwithstanding, that clearly has some fucking demons he's not dealing with, if some of the stories of him throwing absolute mental tantrum breakdowns, psychotic episodes, what have you, in The Office are true. And instead of dealing with them properly, he's lashing out and pissing people off. So there's mentally unstable lunatics hired by friends instead of because they can do good work, working at Marvel, obsessed about pushing a message with diversity, with inclusion, whatever the fuck they want to call it. And what does that lead to? Propaganda so obnoxious that it makes World War II era stuff look quaint. Every fucking book is political. And before any jackass says something stupid like, well, comic books have always been political, just know that you're completely right. They started off as literal war propaganda, but the difference was that they were A, still fun to read, and B, weren't the mad delusions of overly paranoid San Francisco faggots. Writing about how Riri Williams stopped Trump isn't on the same level as Captain America punching out Hitler. It never is, never will be. All you're doing is dating yourself horribly, and in 20 years, when all this political shit blows over, everyone's gonna find it embarrassing and preachy. Telling yourself that it's anything different doesn't make it true. Marvel just doesn't seem to understand this, especially with how their new push to get women and minorities in the comic books. Now, I could talk your ear off about how women have always loved comics and plenty of black people like them too, but I won't. That's playing into their game. It's putting you on the defensive when you need to be calling them out. All I'll say is this. If SJWs and journos think what Marvel's putting out now is acceptable enough to be targeted at women and minorities, they must think they're all fucking special needs or something. All of it. Every single character is a bad attempt at like a slice of life anime or some shit. All edge, humanity, depth, personality has been completely sandblasted off what made each Marvel character special. The last man standing at this point is Venom. And like I said, I haven't been keeping up, so for all I know, the turtlenecks have got their hands on him. Beyond that, every single comic book has been watered down, bad, even fucking Punisher. And Punisher had some of the most disturbing books in the Marvel lineup. Punisher Max will fuck you into the dirt. And it was so good because of that. It really had its own style and flair to it. But now everything wants to be rip-off Joss Whedon, rip-off MCU, rip-off Tumblr humor. And it's so fucking dumb. Now the excuse for this is Marvel now wants to aim at a younger audience of minorities, to children essentially. Except that the vast majority of comic readers, like it or not, are grown-ass men. Sure, they were probably kids when they started reading comics like in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, what have you. But that was back when they were fucking good. Now, I can't imagine any Marvel fan reading something like Unstoppable Wasp or Captain Marvel and actually being able to not feel some semblance of shame. It'd be like watching Boku no Pico in front of your dad. And you can all argue all you want about how since the audience is children now, the old fans need to accept this, but how fucking selfish is that? Because a handful of people in a boardroom in some company no one has any access to wants to make a sweeping decision that affects millions of fans. We should just be okay with it. Since the old fans are 30-year-old men yelling on the internet about how Captain America becoming a Nazi, like it's an actual fucking issue in the world, is bad, that makes this okay. Of course not. That's completely hypocritical. You can't accuse one side of being entitled when you yourself are being extremely entitled. The truth about comic books is, the key behind what makes the stories fun is conflict. Whether it's some artsy-fartsy philosophy debate between the Avengers or Thanos, or watching Punisher open up a dude's skull with a double-barrel shotgun. The point is, shit needs to happen, and it needs to be exciting and fast-paced. That's the whole point. There are these pulp stories you buy, not because the writing is any actual, somehow up there with the great epics of the time like Gilgamesh or some shit like that. You buy it because it's fun. But, no, not anymore. The comics that Marvel believes will please women have anything but conflict. Every story is the same shit. Every single one. Wisecracking female character fights two-dimensional bad guy. That guy is usually white, most oftentimes a dude, who probably has a wife and kids he loves very much. The disgusting bastard. And he gets defeated in 5 minutes because he wasn't woke enough. Depending on the ethnicity of the female character, you'll get spiels about how hard it is to be an Asian in America, or Mexican, or black, or a sand nigger, and this will take up a good 45% of the book. A good 54% after that is goofy hijinks between the character and her friends. Most likely some bullshit having to do with college or high school. Anything that has anything to do with not being a superhero. And I mean, it can literally be anything. Starting a YouTube channel, blogging, writing Harry Potter fanfiction, name it. As long as there's no superhero action, it's good. Oh, and by the way, the last 1%, yeah, that's superhero action. Well, action, quote unquote. Like they do it out of obligation instead of actually trying to find a way to entertain people. This is every single new female character by Marvel. They're all friends with each other, watch each other's backs, nobody ever gets challenged. It's all so fucking dull and boring. Also, the humor is always terrible, always. It's made up of stupid in-jokes that the audience couldn't possibly get, or that agonizing Tumblr humor where being quirky and weird is somehow equivalent to being witty. Or just never shutting the fuck up because somehow annoying is funny. No matter who you look at now, this shit has absolutely consumed comics. because there's a significant chunk of people in the world that resent others having fun, so they need to destroy fun, and it will spread everywhere if left alone. It's already infested movies, games, TV, books, music. They made pushes for even fucking heavy metal and anime. This isn't some paranoid conspiracy theory puked out by an incel. Any fucking moron that says that is being willfully ignorant. This is an actual observable pattern that anyone can see, and it's a pattern that will repeat if you just sit down and ignore it. That's why I say, don't play their fucking game. When they accuse you of being racist, give them a middle finger. Stop trying to prove you aren't evil to them. It'll never change their fucking mind. That's not the point. Just tell them to fuck off. It'll have the exact same result as trying to debate them. So just go out having fun. And if you see any kind of social justice push in a hobby or social circle you enjoy, mock them horrendously. Treat them like the red-headed tard stepchild. Laugh in their face until they don't feel welcome anymore, because it's the only way to keep your hobby alive. And really, this is just something that is just going to keep going on and on and on, until rivals set themselves up, which they are thanks to everyone and their mother setting up Indiegogos to fund books of their own or some other project or bullshit, until they actually become established and there's a genuine threat to Marvel and DC. This is just the swill you chose to slurp up. Which is why I go with manga instead. It's like 10% less autistic, but it's still pretty bad. I mean, once you get past the millionth or so isekai, harem comedy, or, any bullshit like that, you might find something that's quite a gem. And sometimes the anime titties are actually legal too, so the fucking pigs at the FBI can stop staking out my house all the time. Besides, Marvel draws all their women as dudes now, and everybody knows that oppai save lives.
おっぱいすごい